It's sort of all wrapping up in together. And basically, I started looking into what was happening, because behind every failing child is a parent who also feels lost and judged and frightened and not knowing where to go. And it didn't seem right to me. And then somebody showed me the graph of the learning of the brain science that happens in the first 1,000 days of life. And for me, that's like light bulbs being switched on. And so I decided that I needed to build something that would support parents from conception to two, to understand the importance of those playful moments, those tiny moments every single day, like making nappy changing a game-changing time where we can really connect with the child and the child can connect with us. But we understand that this is more than just a nappy changing. This is something that literally is changing the architecture of the brain, and therefore everything that comes off that, being our senses, our primitive reflexes, our gross motor control, fine motor control, and ultimately into our academic outcomes. So I built an app that is for the first 1,000 days, and it's tiny activity every single day. And they use things from in and around the home. Each activity is a skill building on a skill, and highly repetitious. That's the chat. Yes, that word. And each activity also is grounded in science and research and links out to it. It's designed to be terribly easy to use, and it's like really simple.
I actually downloaded it. It's quite great, and it's very behavioral, and I love it. And so I think you represent the application of what I'm going for, and I'll tell you who I am. I'm an optometrist of 40 years, board certified, and I understand the physics and the psychophysics of the actual input. So you see the input and the output, I see the input, and then you basically change the behavior of the output. So we're basically on the same tracks, just that I'm on the front side and you're on the back side. And I think we could work together in some fashion to really improve. Not, your output is great. However, one thing, if you've got garbage in, you've got garbage out. So basically, that's my whole deal. And if I could change the world, if I really could, and I'm trying to through this, I would give every kid a +2 all the time. And Gary, you know why? Why? Because that turns them into a nearsighted kid, at least the time they're having it. Their world is near. Their world is not driving like you and I. Therefore, we do not have to worry about them seeing far away. Everybody's worried about them seeing far away. We do not have to worry about that. They are all plus. Everybody's plus when they come out, right, Gary?
Well, and
pretty much. And if they're not plus, we just add more plus, because if they're already minus, that means they need a little bit more minus. But we give them all plus, and at that point, they all see up close passively without any activity at all. In other words, their brain is absolutely locked into close. There's no way they can have amblyopia. And what we do is we make one more plus than the other. We have it so we flip the glasses back and forth every day. And therefore, some of the time they're more plus on one side, some of the time they're more plus on the other side, and they're doing like patching, only with a pair of +2 glasses. It's over. They do not have to worry about amblyopia ever.
So Claire,
I did have one question.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in the States here, we have a program that's called Birth to 3.
Yep.
And it's to make sure all the children, because I was a foster mom, and actually I adopted my son through foster care. I've had him since he was 2. And thank you. And he is 10 now, and he has been struggling all his years in school, all his years. And a lot of times his energy and everything about him was misunderstood as bad behavior or disruptive behavior. Well, it wasn't until Al. Now, keep in mind, I've been praying over this child for years because I didn't feel like I had the right equipment, the right tools, the right understanding to raise him to the best of my ability. And he has mental illness in his biological background. His mom drank and self-medicated when she was pregnant, so the frontal lobe cortex did not form completely. And so I am grasping at straws as an adoptive mom on how to make this child successful in life, in society. And it wasn't until Al did his eye exam that it was completely clear. And not only did his vision, but his confidence just went through the roof, because now it's like opening his eyes for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
He's a different child, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I've only had it for 2 weeks?
Right. And
2 weeks. The guy turned into completely a different guy. And I love that, Gary. I don't care if I make a dime on this thing. All I want to make sure is that every kid has the possibilities of this child. I've seen it happen so many times over the 40 years I've been doing this. It makes me sick not to do something about it. I told you this before. This is a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
And you're giving a new option to parents too. I mean, a lot of parents, they don't even know that this is an alternative. They exhaust themselves with medication and, really time-consuming therapy. But this is something that could save them a lot of time and money. And who wants to give their kids drugs?
There's a lot of caring parents out there that don't actually wear glasses for themselves, and it skips a generation. So when they don't even know, like, why should they go take their children for an eye exam when they don't even go? So,
can I bring this really far back? Because you're all solving a problem. What if we work to prevent the problem?
Right.
Exactly.
I agree.
So that's where I come in. Right. So what I'm talking about is getting those primitive breeds, getting kids down on the floor, getting kids playing with purpose, getting parents to get them out of those stupid bumbos. Am I allowed to say that? Getting them actually moving so that their whole inner core is being activated, which will activate their eyes, then they're getting them crossing the midline, getting them looking at things far and near. If we have all this stuff as a tiny activity on a daily basis, no one needs glasses.
Yeah. Okay. That may be true.
Agree with that? Do you agree with that?
That may be true, but I think it's an individual case, and I think we have to make sure that each individual case is actually that case. In other words, I agree with you if they're plano and if they have binocularity. So I will agree to her to the extent that all the inputs are correct. Right?
So
if the inputs are correct, I agree with her.
I'm going to jump in with something academic papers out there. So here we go. When you're born, if you have the most perfect eye, it measures to 22.22 millimeters long. Perfect eye. Right. Okay. When you are born and your eye is slightly longer than it should be, they call that axial myopia. It's hereditary. It comes from mum and dad. So at about 3 or 4 years old, you should be naturally long-sighted, about a +3, +4, that kind of thing. So we can tell now, because science has told us, we can tell by 3 or 4 years old that child's going to be myopic, if they're going to be short-sighted, if they are having problems. And what Dr. Lamont wants to do is get children's eyes tested with your app. You put the two together, and it alerts the parents, hey, have you been to the local pediatrician? Have you been to the local optometrist that specializes in this stuff? The two of them can marry up, and there's monetization here for us. So doctors and opticians will pay you for that referral, and this works. Everything starts to come together beautifully. But that's it. That's just a thought.
We need to work together. You're right. We both of us have legitimate points. I just think we need to work together. It's kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. They've went worldwide, kind of like Bascom Palmer, all these places. They work together. All their disciplines work together. We just haven't gotten to that point where we have behavioral scientists and child development people like Claire here and me. We just all have to work together.
Yeah, and it has to be a mandatory where everyone is on board, because I have taken my adopted son, into an eye doctor several times. And he failed at the screenings they had at school, but yet the eye doctor said that he passed. And at 3 years old, they did not do anything about it.
So there's the big problem. The big problem is not only is the public not aware, the doctors are either not aware or they don't care.
Now that's really interesting, because
I can't know.
I've been on a call this morning with somebody who I work quite closely with, who's quite passionate about this. She's a tomatis practitioner, and she is also...
What's her name?
Sorry?
What's her name?
Her name is Charlotte. I can't remember her right now. Davies, but she is actually a movement specialist, and she's absolutely passionate about getting this vision set up right.
Like me.
and sound therapy. She would be very anti making everybody wear glasses. So I'll just put that out there first of all.
Yeah, I know. You know what? That's a hard and fast rule that I don't think any scientist should ever have. You should never say, I'm anti this, I'm anti that. You should say, go where the science tells you.
I'm saying that. I'm saying she would be anti. I'm putting those words out for her.
Well, then she needs to visit me in person, and I can anti her. Okay. I mean, that's how passionate I am. I will.
Don't worry, she'll tell you the same the other way. So there could be a bit.
But here's the thing: the debate is healthy. The debate is good.
Yeah.
Let the parents decide. At the end of the day, look, from Greek heritage, we love a good debate. So it's a sign of intelligence. We are not letting anybody dictate to anybody else. We just want to have a debate.
There's only one answer. There's not just one answer. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We are all human beings.
Well, and I'll tell you something that really shocked me. We did, before I met you even, Dr. Lamont, through my vision show, Claire, one of the things that I do for the industry is I produce events that bring leaders that have, great subjects to just, it's not for profit, really. It should be, but it's not. And it's not even for, like the usual ways that conventions will be held. It's just literally to put organic information out there. And one of the companies we work with, Eiley, they wanted to talk about myopia. Now, I thought that this subject had been talked about ad nauseum in the industry. But when we talked in LinkedIn and said, we're talking about myopia, if you're a leader in the industry, come participate. We had leaders from all over the world come to this little virtual summit after only 2 or 3 weeks of promoting it. And they all said the same thing. Everybody's passionate about solving this problem, but nobody's working together to really solve it.
Yeah, right.
And, one of the things that we've done with the metaverse platform that we've created is we've created a direct to consumer channel that's huge, that's big enough that millions of people can come from all over the world. And then they can choose a direction to go in. Now, when I'm working with someone like Dr. Lamont, and if you're helping with him, you can be a part of that. And Gary, is where creating content that is consumer facing, that kind of gets people's minds going like, oh, wait a second. Is there something with my child that I might want to assess, that I might want to look deeper in? And then if they do, we make it easy for them, very easy for them to immediately find that path. And I think that's what we were working towards. And I'd love to play with your app a little bit. I haven't done that, but if that gives us that conversion point, that would be amazing.
It's definitely a conversion point, and it's a place to speak to parents. My challenge is getting it into the hands of parents on my own.
Me too. That's my challenge.
Yeah. And it's if we find a channel, if we find a route that maybe somebody sponsors it to go out into the hands of every parent who gives birth, and it's a gift. It's a way to go. But if we can do that, then we can send. What we would do is each of those tiny activities. The challenge is it's an education app. If we start sponsored, then it kind of loses integrity, and that's problematic. So it's how we marry that.
Let me tell you how our sponsorships work, Claire, and tell me if you feel comfortable with this. How our sponsorships work is we don't say, you pay us and we'll promote your product. No. Like, let's say we would go to like Mattel and we would say, hey, if you would like to sponsor a study on different toys that are out there, then you can give us, let's say, $50,000, and we can get pediatricians, behavioral therapists, and pediatric optometrists together to evaluate these toys from their different perspective and publish a paper on this and put it out, through our own channel that we have through our website, through social media. And then this would be money to fund your research and help you get it sponsored. And by promoting that study, which the marketing dollars are involved in that, it raises awareness to the study. But because you were involved in the study, maybe your app was used in some way to validate whatever it is we're doing, it's getting you kind of like free publicity, but it's not really free. It's like It's like shared publicity.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that, Mom?
That for me can work, yes, so long as it's not big tobacco kind of research.
No.
Well, and here's something. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah, so the reason I'm saying, and I'm being quite candid about it, is because potentially this is the sort of thing that governments would buy into, but they won't buy in if Nestle's been involved or somebody who's got the wrong. You've got to kind of stay squeaky clean. And if our research is being done, like the research I've done on my app is done through University College London, because it needs to be of that standard. It's based on Harvard's research. So it needs to be that sort of academic rigor that we're talking about. That's not, I mean, who's that woman who did the blood thing that in America, who's going to, yes, probably something that looks much like that, yes.
Well, let me just tell you what Dr. Lamont and I found, which was very interesting. We've already presented this idea to a potential sponsor. Now, understand that the majority of brands that we're going to be speaking with are independent innovators, let's call them. These are people with the innovation that needs to get into the hands of the world, but doesn't because of centralized economies, which in medical, optical, all of them, they have very centralized economies. So if you want to bring an innovative idea to market and you're not playing in their camp, you can't. So we got in front of one of these people who has tons of funding and all the money in the world could not help them bring this product to market. So they've been looking specifically for independent channels like us. And he's already gone to the Mayo Clinic and some of these other companies to try to have them do a study on his product. But the reason he didn't do it was the way their studies work is whether the results are favorable or not, they publish it. So what he wanted is somebody who would do the studies, and then if the results were unfavorable, they would just give him the study and never promote it. And then he could either redo it again with us or, just go back, make those changes and come back, but not be in a, go ahead.
Charlene, you're so right. I didn't mean to cut across you. Please finish off and I can...
Oh, no. Go right ahead. I was done. It was interesting because I didn't know that. Like, we're actually solving a need. These young innovative companies are afraid to partner with these schools, not because they don't have the money, because they're afraid of getting bad press and not having an opportunity to fix it. I didn't even know that. So our model is actually really perfect.
And the community of parenthood is one of the strongest tribes around. Mummy bear, tiger bear, call her what you want. She will do anything to protect her cubs. Daddy bear is just as protective and nurturing. So we have the community there. And I'm a marketeer. If I'm selling a steak, I don't sell that meat. I sell the sizzle. And there's a book called How to Build a Tribe. And the book talks about how to build a cult. How to build a cult. And they're not talking about Manson killing people. They're talking about a marketing cult. And how you start a marketing cult is you start with, the word is polarization. Wear glasses, don't wear glasses. Start off putting your kid in front of an iPad from the time it's 6 months old or not. Outside, inside, app or not. We've got a ton of polarization here that's going to split people. And I think that we've got the community and the sponsors will come. And like Claire says, no one gets in unless you're of that world-leading gold standard. Absolutely. Because we are in a strong position here. Just what you've been missing is marketeers. That's all.
So Claire, what we could do, and Dr. Lamont and I have been talking about this offline, because Dr. Lamont needs a revenue engine for his nonprofit, and looking for individual donors is tough right now. So we figured a lot of companies are going to be looking for creative ways to market their product, and this is an investment they're making in an organization that has tons of professionals that can go on a board with Dr. Lamont, almost like the new good housekeeping model. But we could create standards, and those standards could be super simple. Sustainability. Do you show that your product provides some level of sustainability? And, this kind of independent infrastructure showing that you don't have a conflict of interest. You can set these standards in advance. So it's very fair. It's very transparent. You don't hit these standards, then you guys can make a decision as the board if you want to review these products or not. All my team and Gary's team would do would be to provide the content and the resources and take all the information and repurpose it into a really good looking white paper. We already have an optometrist on board that Dr. Lamott has recruited for my team, who has written white papers before. So, she's already published them. So she's a credible person to do this. And we might actually have access to some colleges who would be open to doing this with, like, let's say a young and upcoming, optometrist who's like a 4th year grad that, participates in something like this with cooperation with the schools. So we have tons of resources to do this that are very credible. Dr. Lamott is looking to focus on this C/3 initiative, which is really playing into what you're talking about with this prevention. And his really big focus is getting pediatricians involved. So maybe meeting you, and Gary, thank you so much, because this is awesome, was like perfect timing.
It wasn't
what I mean?
Me, it was God.
Yeah, we agree. We agree.
Amazing.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. This has been unbelievable. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Charlene. We got the best team I've ever seen. This is the best. This is a better team than I could have ever prayed for. I really am not kidding. It's the best team I've ever.
Gary, since you set up this meeting and you had a clear vision of convergence, and now we're all kind of seeing your vision and totally on board with it. What do you envision? How do you envision this working?
I agree with Al. We need pediatricians on board. We need other healthcare professionals. And what Claire doesn't know yet is that we're trying to create a buzz around this event that we're gonna do. And what the event will be, it will be global. There'll be lots of interesting speakers like yourself, if you agree. If Al's the chair, he's in charge, so he agrees on who the right speakers
Gary,
are.
let her know what the theme is, just so she can kind of get an understanding of it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. What Al is talking about is performance management, the best performance a pair of eyes and a brain can give. Let Al, that's his vision. Let him talk about that. Al, how do you see that online event?
Well, I think we've already described it. Basically, what we're doing is taking the mechanics of the vision, the development of the vision, the behavioral mod that's you're talking about, Claire, and all the pediatrician stuff wrapped into one. This is going to be one exciting thing, I'm telling you. Anybody who is even remotely interested in anything like that will be blown away by the amount of actual information.
Neurologists, orthoptists.
Yeah, everybody.
Every view going. Like, we don't mind you coming in. Bring in the view. Bring it in. Claire?
Bring them in.
So, Claire,
medics coming to this conference.
No, this is gonna be a very so basically we're bringing everyone around a common topic, Claire, which is performance vision. And in performance vision, Dr. Lamott and I could share this with you, Gary, we've broken it down into several areas. One of them is, pediatrics, sports vision, gaming, like all these different disciplines of performance vision. But your category is basically understanding performance with regards to that first 1,000 days.
Performance. Yeah, it's cool.
My question to you, Claire, is have you ever worked in the optometry field before with other optometrists on this neurovisual connection?
No. This is
my goodness. This is amazing. Yeah, this is going to be a pivotal opportunity for you, because what a lot of people don't understand, even in the industry, because I've talked to optometrists about this, is how what you see impacts what you think, what you imagine, what you visualize. And having access to somebody like Dr. Lamott, who's on like 30 panels, he's definitely a tried and true expert in this specific area of input. It's going to change everything for you with kind of troubleshooting proactively the way you're trying to do. Because even though you're doing a preventative approach, you're still trying to prevent a problem from occurring, in the future.
Absolutely.
I think we have more in common than we have apart. And I think we should just share it. And all of a sudden, I think we'll find out that we have a lot in common, more than you even know. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I really appreciate meeting you, Claire, and I look forward to working with you in every respect. As you bring a big, huge unbelievable asset to this team.
Oh, thank you. Well,
I
it's
agree.
a delight to be invited in, and I'm trying to get up to speed and work out what's going on fully. But it's
Gary and Charlene will fill you in. They're pretty good. They're good at this.
Well, let me ask you this, Claire. In the U.S., have you worked with any pediatricians or schools or anything like that?
Not in the US, no.
Okay. What about in the UK?
So I've got some nurseries in the UK who have signed up with a leaky that are using it. I have had COVID not happened, the health visitors in Hertfordshire would have taken on the app, but COVID got in the way.
Okay. Amazing.
Early days.
Not that that's good, but this is actually, here's what I'm thinking. Go ahead, Dr. Lamont. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I think we should put a website link from my website to hers, because I think she's got a whole another aspect that does not conflict with my ideas at all.
Oh, absolutely. I thank you for offering that. And Claire, how that would work. And I think let's build that out on the C/3 site, Dr. Lamont. What do you think about that on the landing page?
I agree.
Okay.
That's where it should be. Yeah.
So Claire, Gary and I can work with you. You could set up a WhatsApp group or something, Gary, where you can just share some content. And then what we'll do is we'll include that on like a little landing page. Because what Dr. Lamont wants to do on all of his websites is become like a resource center. So when parents come there, they're not just, coming, or people in general, they're not just coming to invest by donating, but they're also coming to learn. Because if he's that learning resource that people keep coming back to, it's going to increase his traffic and it's going to make him more attractive to sponsors. So you bring a lot of knowledge and expertise that we can leverage to add to our resource. And it sounds like Dr. Lamont is willing to do that. So let's definitely add that as like a takeaway from this meeting. Gary, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the plan's coming together. It's all. I couldn't have dreamt that this would happen last week. To meet you, Claire, seems all quite synergistic to me. So look, please put in your diary when's our event?
February 16th.
There you go, February 16th. Put it in your diary. Of course, we're going to speak together and make sure that we need credible people who do due diligence. If you can come along, add value on all of these things, help with us creating this amazing event. And if you're happy with that, Claire, look, we already offered to put you on a website and link back.
I envision this is like a TED Talk of performance vision. This is what this is.
Yeah.
It's a TED Talk of performance vision is what it is.
Well, we can have, on that performance vision event, Dr. Lamont, we can have peer panels for all of the different disciplines of performance vision. And on early stage prevention, we can have, maybe you don't want to do that one, maybe because you mentioned before that even though this is your platform, you feel like when it comes to pediatrics, there's other people. Maybe we could find a pediatric optometrist who would be very, Dr. Shlosky would be amazing, actually.
Any of the pediatric people or any of the vision training people, I like those too.
Yes. Actually,
I'd love to have teenagers on there and young people talking on their own panel. Give them the voice to say, maybe for and against, how glasses have changed their lives, how they're feeling. That's so powerful, young people.
I think we also need some testimonials of people that have had these kinds of treatments and have had success.
Well, I love that you're talking about details like that. Thank you, because that's what we need. We got to get ready for this thing.
Well, not only one thing I wanted to add to is, they were ready to put my son on Ritalin and things for ADHD. And I was completely against it, especially since it's considered a black box medication and it can cause mental illness later on in life. If you're on it, if you start at a young age on it. And now I chose melatonin at night. I mean, as a parent, I was going all natural. And, but the glasses just completely changed his life. They completely changed his life and his whole demeanor. I actually, it was such a struggle. I cannot even tell you how much I struggled as a parent, not knowing where to go, who to turn to. And then God put Al in my life. And this is why. This is why, because my son, who I love dearly, and I've had since he was 2 days old, the struggle is so much easier now. It's so much easier.
You could be one of our testimonials right here.
Right, right. Yes.
No,
yes.
absolutely. I think we should. I think we should have, and we might be able to get a very big organization involved, Dr. Lamont, called Brain Balance. They're actually chiropractors that developed this concept of balance by balancing the left and right side of the brain, and they've solved. But I wonder if binocularity is doing something similar.
I never thought that we'd talk feet, but I'm privileged enough to know the UK's #1 podiatrist, just by pure fluke. She's always on the television, speaking on GMTV, Claire. Her name's Claire Supple.
I might have someone better.
Another Claire?
Even better,
I've got somebody better who is talking about feet in the first 1,000 days.
Even better. So look, we're gonna put. I don't know if you guys know this old joke. Do you know this old joke? The hands and the feet. They have an argument, and they say, "Hey, do you know this one? Do you know this one, Al?" Right. So the hands and the feet, they have an argument. They say, "Hey, I'm more important." And the feet say, "Yeah, but I take you places." And the hands say, "Yeah, but I make things happen." And then the eyes come in and they say, "Hey, you know what? Without us, you wouldn't be able to run off. Without us, you wouldn't be able to see." And then just the bum comes in and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm the most important." And then everyone's laughing. Ha ha ha! How can the bum be important? He says, "I'll stay closed for 3 days and then we'll see who's important." It's all connected. Everything is connected.
Yeah.
Anyway,
old joke. One thing I wanted to include, both for you, Dr. Lamont, and for you, Claire, is that we're pretty much certain that we're going to have a physical location in Ohio with a wholesale lab that's going to be sponsoring 100 local eye doctors. But perhaps instead of it just being eye doctors, we can have half of them be eye doctors and half of them be pediatricians. So then what we can work together to do, Claire, is to do a physical workshop on what you promote. So you could try to get these local pediatricians engaged. And that's, Dr. Lamont, how we can get our feet wet. Because pediatricians would come to something like this physically. Maybe not virtually if they don't know us, but physically they would.
Don't forget, I am living in a 5-star place up here, you guys. Don't forget. There's a great place to stay
we can do
right
something
here.
there. The reason I did the Ohio one, Dr. Lamont, is Ron is going to coordinate it. He's got like a whole room. It's like a whole conference center.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the future.
Yeah, I would love to do that. We could do like retreat. That would be something more like a retreat, I wouldn't put the pressure on you to coordinate.
Need to let Claire off the hook. Sorry that I said, look, you pop in for 10 minutes, see if we all get on. Like, you've been here half an hour. Look, Claire, you are welcome to leave. Like, I don't want you to feel that you're. Literally, you can be here 10 minutes and then escape. You're in the. I think you're in. I think people. We accept there's a synergy.
Claire, don't leave, Claire.
No, I said to her, look, come along for 10 minutes. Let's see if we all get on.
We love you. And I love your app, by the way. I checked the app out. I absolutely love it. So it's great.
That's very generous of you. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we can make some impact, and change.
Let's do some linking. We want to link to your website, okay? We want to link to it.
That's very kind of you. And I just need to understand more of it and understand the concept as a whole. But it's sounding, I think we're all on the same page with the journey that we want. We want better outcomes for children in the end. And we want to start them off in the best possible environment in the beginning, is what I see.
Educate parents.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question, Gary.
And this industry as well needs to be educated.
Well, I'm wondering if we're doing the right thing. I mean, maybe what we should be doing is this conference should maybe be for the practitioner.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's both. We're going to do something very brave, and we're bringing them all together because, first of all, understand that in the optical industry, there are 3 very important professionals that almost never speak to each other. Are you familiar with the concept of silos in business development and everything like that? Have you heard that term? Okay. So silos are very dangerous, but in our industry, it's just the way of life. They're siloed so bad, there's concrete walls on these silos, okay? So you have the ophthalmologists, these are the surgeons, they're considered like the physicians, even though optometrists are also physicians. There's that rift between ophthalmologists, who are the surgeons, and optometrists, who are typically the ones who will, do an exam.
Routine care.
Glasses, the routine care. But a lot of optometrists are doing much more specialized medicine now. And they do work with dry eye and pediatric and vision, all of these new things.
They prescribe all day.
The problem is, what we've learned here in the US, and I don't know if it's true in the UK, is that optometrists are not allowed to proclaim themselves as specialists. So if a parent is looking for somebody that's helpful in vision therapy, it's very hard for them to find someone that does that, because there might be an optometrist in their area that actually does provide these services. But if the parent is doing their research online, two major things are a problem here. Optometrists don't really know how to do digital marketing and set up their content on their site. And even if they did, they're concerned about promoting themselves in a way that might get them in trouble, because they're not allowed to say certain things. So they just avoid saying it altogether. And then you have opticians. Opticians are the ones to make the glasses. They get probably the closest upfront and personal information from the patient, because they have to ask them all sorts of questions about their lives. What do they do? How do they sit? All these different things. But what we're trying to do with my vision show from the very beginning, and now very specifically with Dr. Lamott, with this subject of performance vision, is bring all three of those disciplines together in one place and let them just find their way. It's worked before with like hundreds of other subjects. Like when we do my vision show, it's normally, lab manufacturing and frames. I mean, you forget about it. There's like 100 subjects going on, but we've never hyper focused on a specific subject like this. And it really is a virtual summit. It is not a convention. It's going to be very, very interactive. People will be able to sit down at a table face to face and talk for as long as they like.
And fun too, because nobody wants to go to another webinar that's just boring. Now, Claire, what you don't know about me, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis about 25 years ago, long time ago. And one of my favorite things is at the I think somewhere in Russell Square, some medical practitioner thing, a neurologist and patients get to meet, and when the two come together, I feel that I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth. So for me, I'd leave it open to both practitioners and patients and parents.
Yes.
Everyone, there's no limit to the tickets here. We can all get involved.
And you guys saw firsthand, Gary and Claire, we already kind of did this with the last event that we did. We were rolling out the optical metaverse. Now, I didn't invite the general public. I only invited our industry. But because I've become more public facing, people from the general public came. And we had really cool things happen. We had people that are like 3D designers coming on and talking to us. And they spoke very specifically about how they wanted to learn more about their vision. So they didn't come there for the technology, even though the technology is like a first of its kind. They came there for the education. So I definitely want to invite the public. And frankly, I think you can be that bridge, Claire. You can be that bridge because you're already public facing.
No pressure.
No pressure.
But I'm also thinking about the vision and visual processing folks who are all into the development element as well, who are much more specialist than me. They would be potentially interesting and potentially more debating. But I think everybody's in coming from the right heart. It's just the route that we do it might be different. And I just need to look around a bit more, because Charlotte is fabulous, but highly contentious. And so she might be the right person. She might be the wrong person. I don't know. She might be exciting.
Bring her on. I think bring her on.
Yeah, definitely. We have all kinds. But so I didn't tell you about this yet, Gary, or even you, Dr. Lamott, but we're going to adopt for this event to ensure its success and all events going forward, what we're going to call a 10X strategy. What that means is we need 10 people that we know are fully aligned with our vision. So you would be one of those people, Claire. We already have 10, but you would be 11. That's fine. And each of those people need to bring 10 additional people that they feel would be fully aligned with their section of it. So they don't have to be fully aligned with the whole event. But they could be like really there to support you and, you know, kind of share the deeper sense of all the things that you're talking about. So if 10 people bring 10 people, that's 100 people.
And you need to, as long as you've got a strong chair, so one voice isn't over, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be great. It'll be great.
But
I'm so
I think
excited.
it's important.
I'm so excited. I can't believe it. This is a real group. It's very exciting.
So what do you think are the next steps, Gary and Dr. Lamont and Claire?
I think like you build a snowball, the momentum starts carrying on, and the ball gets bigger, the excitement gets more. What I haven't told you all five is that I've been recording this. I'll be chopping this up and sending it into because it's so authentic, and this is really interesting stuff. So this is our content for this week. The momentum builds. We start collecting email addresses. We start working towards our 16th date. Claire, if you're on board, I'd love you to be on board and bring more people in.
Sounds good.
That's it.
And the ultimate aim is, let me just understand Dr. Lamont's ultimate aim, because he got very technical very early about pluses and minuses and all that jazz. Look, I'm just a simple girl doing mummy things with babies. Okay, so go on, take it back as if I'm just a simple mum coming into your office. Talk me through it.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to do is make sure that the baby or the infant has the right neurological, right optical, and the right binocularity. Those three things that you have to have. In order to see, you must see through the physics of the eye. Then you also have to see through the neurology of the brain. And you also, I believe, have to see with two eyes into one. And those are my three concepts. Okay.
Yes.
Does that make it easier for you?
Yes, very, very, very good. I'm particularly liking that
I call it the three. The C by 3 has three concepts. That's what it really is. C by 3 and has three concepts. If we can just keep it simple, stupid, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
In my opinion, too, I think it should be the very first thing that is addressed. In the United States, every child that is born has the opportunity to participate in birth to 3. So they test all their development, make sure that they are developing properly, but they can test their motor skills, but if their vision is not aligned, then it's not going to be effective.
And as I understand it, what we do in the opticians at the moment is we test this eye and then we test this eye, but we don't test the both eyes. And what we're doing is saying, bring both eyes together.
There you go. Yes, that's what we're about. And most optometrists won't touch a child under 6. They say, it's not my problem, go and see a specialist. And that's a shame. And that's what Al wants to educate optometrists to say, that take them in. It's not that tricky.
Yeah.
Right.
And add that test into the test. Then you and Charlotte are going to be best friends.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, Dr. Lamont, I have a question for you. Have you ever done any research to find out what sort of optometric evaluation infants do have in the hospital? Like, obviously, the pediatrician isn't going to do it, because I know that, because I took my kid to the eye doctor, and you're lucky they look in their eyes. That's basically it. I mean,
brain damage that the
do we even know what they're looking for is the question, but
right. No, your answer is they don't. I've interviewed a bunch of pediatricians and they have no idea what they're looking at.
Right. But they feel like they're like at least attempting to do something by looking into their eyes.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
in the hospital, and I knew that intuitively, which is scary. But in the hospital, do we know what a standard procedure is for assessing a child's ability to see?
Next week maybe. My son's now 17. We stayed in touch with the pediatrician that done his fur when he was this big. Because she then became my patient, I looked after her eyes. I'm going to try and contact her. As far as I saw, she just done the pupil test to see if it dilated, and that was it. See if there was any brain damage. There was nothing else. I'll see if I can bring her on next week and we'll have a chat. She's lovely. And she was there that done the first assessment of my 17-year-old son 17 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. There's a big gap in this thing that's so huge you could drive a truck through it. It's unbelievable.
And it's about simple things. It's about teaching parents to slow down. You know, that smile they give their child's missed it because it's fleeting and they're away. So let's slow everybody down. Let's take that purposeful moment to engage and activate from the first day in the world. You know, the first activity in the Leaky app once you're born is to look at your child. Exactly. That's an activity. And to take a black and white book that you made into hospital and read them their first bedtime story. You know, we need
Claire, that's why I say you dovetail right into everything we're doing. You dovetail right into it.
Well, we need to just bring it down into that simple so that, like, you guys can talk to the old clever people like you guys who know stuff. I just do simple down here. And
no, you're not simple. You're quite sociologically sophisticated, and I love your app.
No, and I'm simple, so we'll be simple together.
She has no knowledge. She has no knowledge of optometry. None. Tina has no knowledge of optometry.
There is something else, and I was I got the privilege of speaking in our Houses of Parliament where we create laws, and there's a huge amount of the prison population that are severely short and long-sighted. So it starts there. They fall into the wrong gangs and stuff because they can't see, so they muck about in class. So I think we've got big long-term goals. Sorry, Claire, you were about to say.
I talked over you. I apologise. The prison population significantly have been they've been they've been exposed. That's the word I'm looking for. Exposed to ACEs, to those adverse childhood effects. We know that those people who have 4 or more adverse childhood effects have significant issues, and we know that first 1,000 days, in fact, the first 60 days, are fundamentally important for all of this stuff. Yeah. So actually, the connection goes on and on and on, and there's an amazing video that's called Step Into the Circle, I'll find it, which talks about prisoners talking about their childhood, and none of them have got fathers. None of them had parents who were solid, and this is the first time that they've realised that they're vulnerable and that they can be vulnerable, and they step into the circle and they own this. But I use it as a tool to explain to parents if they've ever wondered if they're important. I just play them that video. And it's so incredibly powerful. And, you know, in this journey, they're the key.
Mm-hmm. Wait till you meet Al's fiance. She's got a great story. There's 1,000 stories out there of people being held back because of not those developments. So this is good stuff. Nothing more purposeful. That's purposeful work.
I love it. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Charlene. Thanks, Claire. Everybody's unbelievable. This is going to be really fun.
Yes, and it was nice meeting all of you.
Likewise. Thank you for inviting me in.
Very much so. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome, Claire. Everyone's got... Claire, stay there for a second.
Yes.
That was bonkers, right? What? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I meet this guy, Al, in the metaverse, and he said to me, I can't do a good American accent. He says, hey, where have you been my whole life? That's what he said. I said, well, where have you been my whole life? Like, so then there's you, and then there's Charlene, and then there's like, it's all starting to come together. So, the app, like, he's such a nice guy. He's already said, look, put it on there, like, get links. He's gone on there. He means well. Your friend, as long as they mean well, let them in.
No, she means well. The only reason I'm slightly... Are you still recording?
Oh, shit.
Don't use this.
Hold on. Let's stop.